obviously well below the limit of 50 megabytes set in their receiving limit. Take the size limits off, goes through fine. Put the size limits back, it doesn't go through. So we can definitely see an 18 meg file is not able to come in, even though it's set for 50. So what's the problem? Looking around. What do we find? Another Microsoft knowledge base article. 298572. It basically states that if the sending and receiving sizes are not the same, the smaller size is used, even though one is clearly marked sending and one is clearly marked receiving. If they're not the same, it takes the lower number.
Wow, Microsoft engineering at its best.
Yeah. Isn't that fantastic? So why have two limits? That's what I'd like to know. So we, of course, set them the same, and it works fine.
I wonder how many people, in frustration, trying to troubleshoot the problem, just set both at some high number, like both at 25, and it works. Like, oh, okay, great,
Yep. And it says here, the description of the cause, the problem occurs because of the method that Exchange Message Categorizer uses to enforce message size limits. The categorizer does not differentiate between incoming message and outbound messages and applies both message size limits to all messages. So no matter what you put, it's using both limits, basically meaning whatever size is smaller is what
Yep.
we're seeing.
So
lovely. So what they should have is one size saying message size limit, inbound or outbound. Would be nice. Now, I'd like to know, I need to test this. This was an SPSO3 box. I wonder if this also occurs in other Exchange servers of later sizes. I haven't tested that, but the article specifically mentions Exchange 2000 and Exchange 2003. So
yeah, it doesn't say anything about 2008. It even goes back to 2000 Server Standard Edition. It's just a small business server. Yeah, it doesn't say anything about 2008.
This thing reminds me of the SBS licensing, or even terminal server licensing when it's in per user mode. There's licenses there, but there is no way to check or enforce them.
That's true. The good old honor system, huh?
So, but yeah, they sure have a space, at least in 03, and they did away with it in 08 because they know they can't, it means nothing. But in SBS, you have to key in the license numbers for your client access license, for your SBS licenses, and it tries to keep track of it, but it's completely off. It doesn't know what you have and what you're using, but it will block you if it's over what you think the limit is. Whereas 08, there's nowhere to even put the licenses in, so you're just supposed to buy them. And of course, my favorite is terminal server. If you put it in per device mode, it will count the licenses. If you put it in per user, it doesn't, because it doesn't know how to decrement the count on a per user basis. You just love Microsoft licensing.
Have you ever not dealt with licensing and you're going through this through a company? It can give you a headache, because once you think that you have it, then you read another piece of paper and you just realize the whole equation is totally wrong.
Yeah.
It's just where the Microsoft consultant, if you're fortunate to have one on site, comes into play.
Well, even then, if you ask, I think 2 different consultants, you get 2 different answers.
Yeah.
I've spent so much time on the phone about licensing, I've realized they don't know what they're talking about. So I'm wondering how they can enforce licensing when they're not even sure of the rules themselves. So
we had a product for our environment that cost roughly $10,000. Okay, so initially the powers that be said, okay, this is going to cost $10,000. Awesome solution. Let's buy 2 of them in case the first one breaks. And we said, hold up a minute. This requires like a server, right? Yep. Okay. Now you have the OS licenses. Now you have it required SQL. Now you need that license per processor. Then it required Exchange. Now you have, so once we're done in our environment, this $10,000 solution not turned into, I think it was something like 3 or 4 times the amount, just because of licensing.
Yep.
So
Now, of course, Microsoft is a software company, so that's where they make their money on licensing. As opposed to earlier, like I said, Apple, you buy an Apple server, there's unlimited licenses. So that makes it nice. But they make their money on the hardware. And a Apple server, I've learned Apple server, I got certified on it, but it is a lot different. I don't think it's as powerful. It's more simple.
okay, because that was the question I was going to ask you. Does it have the functionality of a Windows box? Or the features, I mean, I'm sorry, the features, sorry.
Well, it lacks in the remote access and email. So if I was going to put somebody on a Mac server, I would also put them on hosted Exchange.
Gotcha.
I wouldn't use them built-in mail for the Apple Mail. It'll work, but being so used to Exchange and the features of it, I'd rather go with hosted Exchange.
All right.
Now I've got one thing. This is not on the list that I sent you, but this was interesting. I wonder if have you come across this? I get a call from a client, and the customer says, "Hey, when I open up Outlook, it's prompting me for a password." Now this is an Exchange environment, so of course for those who don't use Exchange, when of course your domain account is your only login.
Right.
So that authenticates you to the servers. It ties to your Exchange. So when you open up Outlook, you've already authenticated. So it doesn't ask you for a password. So in an Exchange environment, if you're getting a pop-up for a password in Outlook, it means the computer thinks you're not authorized. So it's saying, "Hey, who are you? You got to log in."
Can I take a wild guess?
Yeah.
Did you have to apply the data service pack to Outlook?
No, that wasn't it.
Okay. Because we actually had that same problem, and the answer was the Outlook client, not on the server side, didn't have the latest service pack on the box.
Yes. And so that'd be a good thing to check. And if you put the password in, it worked fine. It came up and connected. Nothing else worked. Was having a problem. I could restart the computer. I could log in. Everything was working fine. And I asked her, "Is anyone else in the office having this problem?" No. And of course, when they answered that quickly, I know they didn't check. They never check. I said, "Well, can we verify that? Can we go walk around and just take a quick action and have people close Outlook and open it back up and see if they get prompted?" So she says, "Oh, no, everybody's working fine." I said, "Well, okay, I guess it was just a fluke then. Guess it's working." So I get a call later. That first call was like 8:30 in the morning. Next call is like 3:30 in the afternoon. "Hey, I'm getting prompted for a password when I open up Outlook. Different user." I said, "Okay, something's going on here." So one, I can ignore if she's working. Two, something's going on. Something with authentication is definitely wrong. Anyway, the short of it, here's what I found, and it was completely unexpected. It was a DNS issue because the computers in question had the wrong DNS addresses. And why did they have the wrong DNS addresses? There was a rogue DHCP server on the network giving out different addresses and different DNS addresses.
Mm.
Do you know that this rogue DHCP server was not like a Linksys router that you think or device? It was a rootkit. And whatever rootkit they had installed a DHCP server on the computer. That computer was acting as a DHCP server and giving out some DNS addresses to do redirection on the client workstation.
All right. First of all, that's a hardcore rootkit. Second of all, how did you come across to find the answer to this problem?
Well, when you're looking at these kind of problems, when I look at DNS, when I knew it was DNS, or when I suspect DNS, because a lot of times in these domain environments, network environments, funny things happen when DNS is not working right. So of course, on them, I checked the passwords and it wasn't expired, what account wasn't locked out, and I can duplicate it. I did IP config all, and I see the DHCP server is not the server. It was another IP address. And the DNS servers were not the server. They were some public DNS records. And of course, in a domain, in a network, when you do an IP config all on a computer joined to the domain, you shouldn't see public DNS addresses. You should see the server's DNS address. So right off the bat, I thought, okay, this is strange. Who is putting this? I thought somebody just plugged in a Linksys router somewhere. So in the IP config all, you can see the DHCP address is whatever it was. Let's just say it was 1.23. Ping 1.23, and I come back with a computer name, looking DHCP on the server, and sure enough, this computer is 1.23. My first thought was, it's just an IP conflict. Whatever device was plugged in on the network is sharing his IP address.
Okay.
So if it is an IP conflict, you're going to get a pop-up on the computer saying duplicate IP detected. It's going to log in the event log, and it's going to give you the MAC address of the conflicting IP address. And of course, when I'm looking for that, I pull up that MAC address. I go key it into one of those MAC address lookup tools, and it tells me the device, Linksys, Netgear, whatever. So I know what I'm looking for. But in this case, there was no IP conflict. He was working completely fine. His DNS servers were correct. He was just giving out the wrong ones. So I told him, unplug your network cable. So he unplugged his network cable. Other people had him release and renew IPs, and they worked correctly. Plug him back in, IP, and of course, don't forget, when a small business server detects another DHCP server, the SBS DHCP server will kill itself.
Back off.
It'll say, whoa, I'm not looking for any confrontation here. I'll just let you do your thing. So when he unplugged his network cable, I had to go reactivate DHCP in the server. And then when the people released and renewed, it worked. When I told him to plug back in, right away, the server killed again, saying, oh, I detected another DHCP agent. So unplug his, let everybody get back to normal, go out there and do a cleanup. And yeah, that's what we found. He had I've never seen a rogue DHCP engine running on a workstation before.
And in some form of envy, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen rogue SMTP engines send it out spam mail, but this one was kind of cool. I liked it.
I liked it. You're like, yes, I'm so impressed. I'm so impressed that I don't want to fix it. Can I just stare at it for an hour or so? All right, man. Well, very cool. Look, this hour has flown by. Another packed show.
Yes, it has. And I got another story, but I'll save that until next week. Unless you want me to cover it real quick.
Hey, wherever you want, man.
Okay, it'll take real quick.
Okay.
I'll forget about it by next week. I will. Okay, and this is interesting. Let me see what you think about this one. Client calls me, can't get online. Okay. First thing I do is try and ping their router. I can't ping their router.
You can or you can't?
I cannot.
Okay.
I cannot. He can ping his router internally. I can't ping the router from outside. So I do a trace route to their router. And what I see is very interesting. I see after the fourth or fifth hop, same IPs.
If you can say it one more time, because they're breaking up. I heard
okay.
After the last fourth or fifth hop.
Right. So the fourth or fifth, it looks good. First, second, third, fourth, fifth hop looks great. Like the fifth and sixth hop, let's just say the fifth hop ends in .38.41.
Yep.
The next hop was .38.42. Then it would go back and forth, 41, 42, 41, 42. It was like a loop was set up somewhere. You see what I'm saying?
Yep. So instead of it taking the normal 10, 11, 12 hops, different hops, it was taking it going back and forth.
Right. So Yeah, it would be dot 30 dot 30